Let's get it going, fired up once again on the official Colts podcast. Good to be back on set here again on this Thursday. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier. I'm Matt Taylor, the official Colts podcast on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network, Colts.com, the mobile app, wherever you have us dialed up today. We appreciate you doing so. We got a lot to talk about. Colts and Lions coming up in week number 12. The Colts are fresh off a come-from-behind win over the Jets, 28-27 in the Big Apple. So we'll see if they can build upon some of those things. We'll talk about the Lions. They are 9-1, and they are rolling 8 straight games they've won. They are, I think, without question, one of the best teams in the NFL right now, certainly the top seed in the NFC to this point. So it's a big matchup at Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend. Bill, how you doing today? How's your attitude?
I'm doing well. Attitude, I hope, is fine. Unless I've shown you something different.
I need to see that attitude. The toot is strong today.
The toot is fine.
In a positive way.
Fine. I'm doing well today.
Casey, how are we feeling?
I mean, not as good as Bill, but feeling pretty good.
I put Bill on the spot right there. He's always got that fresh big smile, man. We'll see those pearly whites right there. All right, let's start with the win last weekend for the Colts over the Jets. We don't need to go into the game, but Bill, I want to know what aspects of Anthony Richardson's performance last week do you think he can build upon? How was that performance sustainable? Because I think without a doubt he looked the best he has looked to this point in a Colts uniform.
I was impressed by how he played Sunday, and more so how calm he was. I thought he might be a little bit amped up, getting back after being away for a couple of weeks, that he might be amped up, but he was calm the whole day. Did some nice things, and I think he got into the game early by having that first play being a run play for him, getting tackled, getting into the game. But I think some of the passes he made and some of the decisions he made were on point. And to me, that was the biggest thing, making good decisions out there on the football field. And I thought he made some good decisions. And I think, you know what, if he can stay in the groove and get in the rhythm real early, you will see this probably, hopefully, more often. And you can see that as far as going down the road here in the season. For him just to be accurate, which he was, and I thought he played well. And then, you know what, he was 20 for 30, but there were a couple of throwaways that he had and a couple of drop balls. So it would have been better than that if he got some completions, didn't have to throw the ball away. So I think it is sustainable for him, but, he's young in his career, and you got to expect, there are going to be some downs, hopefully not many downs, and hopefully the downs aren't so drastic to go down. But
and we've already seen some of those.
Yes,
right?
we've seen some of those. But I think, moving forward, I think hopefully he can build off of this and he can get better. But hopefully he'll learn from the things that he didn't do well on Sunday, but he can take a lot away from the game, how he played on Sunday against the Jets.
And Casey, from a mood standpoint, it was so good to see that after the last 2 weeks, all the off-the-field drama and the benching and, what the process and what is the process?
Right.
What does that even mean? What can we get some more context? And then Joe Flacco doesn't perform well, and the Colts are on a 3-game losing skid. It was just good to have some positive energy back within the team. And Anthony Richardson, we all understand, what he means and, his performance, what that symbolizes to the future success of this team. It was just really good to have the narrative, I would say change and shift for at least a week. So we're seeing if the Colts can build upon that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when the announcement was made that they were going to go back to Anthony, I was a little shocked in a good way at how positive the locker room felt. But you still had the 3-game losing streak you were on. The last time Anthony played, it wasn't up to the standard. But the locker room, they all had his back and everything, and then it was validated in a way on Sunday. You saw all of that come to, he looked comfortable back there. The poise was there. You would talk about the excitement. It's carried over. And it's amazing what one win can do because, there was that doom and gloom, essentially, like you lose to the Jets. Your playoff hopes take a massive fall. It's, what does that mean moving forward? You get one victory, and all of a sudden you're back there looking at, okay, you're a game back from the Broncos. You play them in a couple weeks. Everything's still in front of you. So that was the biggest thing for me, was that you talk about the excitement, and that's what it did. It just kind of helped validate that, hey, this is still a football team that can go out on any given Sunday and put forth an effort to get a victory and put this team in playoff position.
We're talking about some of the things that the Colts can build off of from last week, heading into the final 6 games of the season. By the way, the Colts are still 1 game out of the last wild card spot in the AFC. Big game coming up later this year with the Denver Broncos. That's a huge AFC game. Plus, as of right now, if the playoffs started today, they'd be in. So that game's coming up is really, really important. They're all important when you only have 6 games to go. And we'll talk about this Lions game. But one final thing about Anthony Richardson's performance last week, Bill. I sort of equated this. I'm watching the game and we're calling it. We're doing the play-by-play. As I'm watching the game unfold, the metaphor that comes to my mind is, Casey, you can relate to this. When you take a little kid bowling and they've got the bumper lanes?
Yeah.
It felt like the bumper lanes were off with Anthony Richardson, right? They ran him 10 times. He's lowering his shoulder. He's getting into the end zone. He's running over people for touchdowns. It just felt like the Colts were, I don't know what the right word is, maybe acceptable or accepting of the fact that Anthony Richardson, in order for him to be at his best and for us to get the best out of Anthony Richardson, we have to let him play like this. And I thought everybody was smart in, when they were dialing him up, how he was running, knowing when to put his body on the line, knowing when not to put his body on the line. It just felt like that performance last week. He was sharp in the passing game, but you saw more design runs, Bill. It felt like the Colts were finally at a place where they were comfortable with how they want to utilize Anthony Richardson, maybe for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think they felt that, we have to let Anthony be Anthony. And part of Anthony being Anthony is let Anthony run. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying Anthony's going to run the ball 20 times a game, but I think, you have that sweet spot, and I've always said this to me, that sweet spot's about 8 to 10 times a game, roughly about 8, and I figure that, with some drop back passes, he might have to scramble, might have to run, 2 to 4 times, so that gets you between 10 and 12 runs. And I think that's probably an ideal spot there for Anthony to run the ball and be effective running the ball. He might have about 8 design runs, so he can run the ball 8 times, scramble a couple of times, and that keeps teams off balance. And also, they just have to balance it with knowing that Anthony has to be smart when he's running the ball. I thought he was smart this past week. I think the times, he had to run people over, and he did that.
Yeah.
And he did it very well, as a matter of fact. And then there's times where, he kind of got down and said, okay, I got all I can get, and that's it. And I think moving forward, depending on the game, he might run 10 times, he might run only 6 times. I think the coaches are comfortable with letting Anthony go at it and be Anthony Richardson. Use his talents as far as his size, his feet, and let him run the ball. But also, he can be smart. He can scramble. We get him out of pocket. We can throw the ball, or he can run the ball as well. And we're happy with that.
Yeah, you love to see those design runs there in the goal line situations, Casey. 2 of them for touchdowns. But what I really like was just driving the ball in the middle of the field. Those not short, but those intermediate throws. Those chunk plays that produce 20 to 25 yards. That comes after the play action setup, which stems from his ability to be a threat in the running game along with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. That, to me, was the most encouraging thing, was the accuracy in the intermediate passing game was much better.
And that's one of the things about Anthony that you kind of get that, I don't know what the right word is, a little bit of a misnomer on kind of what his style is, because ultimately he's a quarterback at heart. And that's where he wants to win. He wants to be a quarterback. So he's not, your typical, when they talk about these running quarterbacks where you look at your first read, if it's not there, you just take off and go. And that's one of the things that I thought we saw last week is he was so confident inside the pocket. If he had to get out, he did. But for the most part, he was trying to look down the field. And that's one of the things that I'm right there with you. Watching him throw the ball over the middle. I mean, it just looked like, I don't know why the 2-week hiatus in some ways changed that confidence level, but he just looked a lot more confident in all of the throws than he had in previous weeks, which is only a good thing.
Yeah, speaking of confidence, other things to build on within the offense, Josh Downs. I want to talk about him for just a second. He's got at least 60 receiving yards in 7 games on the season. That's tied for the 3rd most such games by a player in the league this year. Last week, all 5 of his catches, all 5 grabs, produced either a first down or a touchdown. 30 of his 50 catches on the season have gone for a first down or a touchdown. And I think he's one of the more reliable players on this team. You know what you're going to get every single week out of number one. Casey, is this guy a budding superstar?
Oh, he is. He is a man. I remember last year watching him at training camp, and I was like, man, this guy, for a rookie, he's really, he's surprising me at how he looks so comfortable in the offense. And then this year, in that brief time we saw him in camp, he was arguably the best player on the field. You talked about it. It was defensively, Julian Blackmon had a great camp. Offensively, it was Josh Downs. He missed some time with that ankle injury, so you weren't sure what you were going to get when he came back in. But he got back into the lineup, and he didn't miss a beat. This guy absolutely is he is right on that cusp of being a guy that defensive coordinators, your broadcast partner talks about Ambien players. He's right now probably a 2 Tylenol guy, but he's getting really close to being in that category.
Is he the go-to target on this team, Bill? I mean, has he surpassed Michael Pittman Jr. in that regard? Like, hey, when the team needs a play on third down, is Anthony maybe looking for number one first because of all that he can do?
I don't know if he is the go-to guy, but he's a guy that the quarterbacks feel very comfortable with.
Right.
And that comes from Josh knowing his role, knowing his assignment, and going out there and executing. And also, not just that, the quarterbacks know exactly where Josh is going to be. Mm-hmm. They know what he's going to do. They read his body language very well. They know where he's going to break out off the route at. And they feel comfortable with that. And with any quarterback, he wants to feel comfortable with who he's throwing the ball to, knowing that if he puts the ball within his catch radius, he's going to come up with it. And Josh has been doing that. So the quarterbacks are very comfortable with him. He is a individual, as you said, Casey, his rookie year. I didn't think he played like a rookie last year. He played like someone that's been around the league for a while. Yeah. He understands it. He finds open holes. He knows when to sit down. He knows when to run through things.
Yeah.
And he's just a guy that is beyond his years right now as far as experience in the National Football League, and someone that the Colts count on. And they're going to count on him moving forward. And that's a good thing to have, knowing that on third down, this guy can get you the first down to keep the drive alive.
Well, you just have a grudge against the guy because he broke your record. No. Most catches by a Colts wide receiver in franchise history now belongs to Josh Downs. The previous record holder was number 8.
I am glad he broke it,
No,
Josh.
you were salty. You came in that Monday. You were throwing stuff.
He did.
You about hit me with a stapler.
No, Josh is a great guy, and I'm happy that he broke it, and I expect big things from him.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I threw my pen
look at
there. Head by a spring or something. No, I love you.
I know you do, my man.
Appreciate you, man. That's Bill Brooks right there. Hey, one other thing I want to hit on in terms of what to build on or what to build upon from last week's game going forward. The defense was shut out lights good in the first half. The Jets didn't have a first down until the 2-minute warning, the 2-minute warning of the first half. Their first 5 drives were 3-and-outs or 4-and-outs. The Colts got a turnover on downs on defense in that stretch. But the caveat to that is they still allowed the Jets to score 27 points for the game. It's still a season high for the Jets, and they did it in a span of 32 minutes.
Yep.
27 points over the last 2 minutes and change of the first half, and then in the second half. So there's still some things to work out there, Casey. How do the Colts play a full 60-minute game like they did the first 28 minutes of that game against the Jets? And they got a tall order coming up on Sunday.
I mean, you talk about that's a difficult opponent coming into town this weekend with the Lions. No, that's a great question,
right?
It's so hard because I feel like that is one thing that we have heard Gus Bradley talk about week in and week out. We've heard, Zaire Franklin, DeForest Buckner about putting together a full 60-minute ball game. We haven't seen that. You talk about that first half. I mean, it was shocking because at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers definitely lost a step, but he was still the quarterback on the other side of the football. So it was one of those things you could take that and you go, wow. So maybe it's just finding a way. I mean, you don't ever want to take away what they did there, but you almost like, hey, save some of that for later. And that's kind of where you got to figure out where that balance is, because that has been the biggest knock when you talk about this defense. It is, you may have played 3 really good quarters, but then one of those quarters you let it get out of hand. I don't know if I have an answer on how you combat that, but it is definitely a spot where we talk about this team being a playoff football team. That's one of the things you got to figure that out. And it comes offensively too. There have been offensive up and downs too. You got to be able to put together a full complete game, but definitely defensively there have been those laps that you've got to figure out these last handful of weeks how to really hone in and play a complete game.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think you're doing, if you look at the first half of the game, as you mentioned, I think the Jets were 1 of 6 on third down, so they didn't get any third down conversions. And they had only 103 yards for the first half.
I mean, like 75 or, what was the number?
70 was, I think, on the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's when they got 70 of the 103 yards in the
Right.
first half. So, to me, it's being better on third down, and if they can continue to do well on third down, get teams off the field, hopefully that will help them out a lot as far as moving forward in the second half. But you have to do it for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And the problem is, a lot of times what happens is you get these ebbs and flows and the momentum switches. You just have to make sure that this momentum doesn't switch too much. And you have to make sure you stay on your assignments and hopefully continue to get them off the field. Because if the defense can continue to do that for 4 quarters, watch out. This will be a very, very fun defense to watch, which it is now. But I'm saying, for them to do it for 4 quarters, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, hopefully the offense can get up by 2 scores. That pass rush can get going. And a guy that's going to play a full 60 minutes coming up on Sunday, that would be Mr. Kwity Paye, number 51. He's got 3 sacks, or I should say has a sack in 3 straight games coming into this one, including 2 against Aaron Rodgers last week against the Jets. The walk-off sack, man, there are sacks, and then there are walk-off sacks. Man, you just put your arm in the air like you're the dude from the Breakfast Club in the closing credits right there. That's what Kwity Paye was able to pull off last weekend. I love a good, teen 80s reference right there.
I'm all for that.
A little John Hughes movie. Anytime you can do that in. I don't know if Kwity Paye understands these references, but we're about to find out. He joined us a little bit earlier today here on the Official Colts podcast. Check it out. All right, as promised, we're joined now by Colts defensive end Kwity Paye, fresh off of those 2 sacks against the New York Jets. And Kwity, there are sacks, like we said. There are sacks, and then there's walk-off sacks, man. And you got the knockout punch on Aaron Rodgers the other day. What was that moment like, knowing that you were the guy that ended the game for the Colts?
It just feels great, we practice those situations, and we always say 2 sacks in the game, and for us, I was just thinking let's just go out there and end it. Offense put us in a great position, and defense we have to hold our end of the deal. So I went out there and got it done.
For sure. Now you know Aaron Rodgers a little bit, right? You guys work out together?
Yeah, train together in the off season, so. I have some bragging rights for sure this offseason.
Did you have anything to say to him in that moment or maybe after the game?
No, I mean
all in good spirits,
Yeah, great spirits. And, we just caught up after the game and, just said, love you, man, and I'll see you in the offseason.
As a professional football player, you guys put so much time and energy into all this, but you're still – humans, and, you respect the game and you respect the other guys as well. When you know a guy like Aaron Rodgers, what's that balance of respecting him and giving him some love before the game, but during the game, man, he's enemy number 1. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I feel like when you're playing in the game, you just have to play with no emotion. You can't, see a guy that you train with or a guy that, and take it easy on them, because that's going to hurt your team and you're not doing your job. So, I feel like pregame and after game, you're buddy, and then during the game, you just have to be you.
Yep. All right. Speaking of you are on fire right now. Those 2 sacks, you have a sack now in 3 straight games. Do you feel like you're in the zone? You're hitting another level?
I feel like I'm just playing a lot healthier. When I came off the quad, I came back a little bit too early. But, anything for my team, so I want to come out and play. And, I feel like the quad's easing up on me now. And, I'm a lot more comfortable. I got more flexion and, just going out there and just balling.
Something about this defense, and I've heard you guys talk about this. I've read in articles about this, but you guys and Gus Bradley's defense, you guys are all about the second chance sacks or the hustle sacks, right? And it doesn't matter, how you get them, when you get them. It's all about how many you get and how often you guys are disrupting the game. But how much do you guys study quarterbacks and their movements in the pocket, how they like to step up, how they like to exit the pocket, and just those hustle sacks that come along with knowing, or having that knowledge of these quarterbacks?
Yeah, just us throughout the week, we always harp on that. This is where he likes to escape to. We put a chart on the board. He escapes here, he escapes there, through the B gap, or wherever. And that helps us in our rush, because when we're rushing and when he feels the pressure, he's going to resort back to what he's comfortable with. So, just doing that, just having that in the back of your mind, it for sure helps the rush when you're rushing, and then he holds the ball and you're like, all right, I know where he's going to be at. And then when you retrace and he's right there for you, yeah.
But I was asking other guys in the locker room, other pass rushers, how do you remember all of that? Throughout the course of a play, you're trying to beat the tackle. You have so much in your head. How do you keep that fresh as part of your play and your assignment?
I think when you're developing your rush plan for the game, you implement that. So all your moves are based off of where he escapes. And then from there, then you just stick to your rush plan, and then, just get right.
The average play is 3 seconds, and you're having to compute all of that in real time. It's amazing what you guys can do. All right, another guy that's really coming along too, rookie Laiatu Latu. How have you seen him develop in his rookie season?
I think for him, just, developing his rush plan and sticking to it, and just trusting it. At times he was a little discouraged, but at the same time, I was like, hey, man, you just have to keep going and just keep balling, and those sacks will come. And I feel like he's been trusting it a lot more, and now he's even like, oh, I feel like teams, the O-linemen are, planning for me to do this and that, so now I'm going to do this. So, just seeing him, audible and just change his rushes like that is amazing to see.
Yeah, the NFL is hard. This just in. It's a tough league. Yeah. Everybody's good up here. Good. I talked to him a little bit earlier this week, and he said, the tackles in the NFL, they're way better than they were in college in the Pac-12. And he, just like you guys were used to in college getting sacks and pressures and wrecking the game every single week. How frustrating can it be? Put yourself in his shoes a couple years ago as a rookie. Yeah. How frustrating can it seem to be when you feel like it's just not going as fast as you want it to?
Yeah, no, I was telling him, my rookie year, I didn't get my first sack until, week 7, I believe. And then once I got my first one, I got my second one, then my third one, then my fourth one. So I was just like, they're going to come in bunches, and once you get that first one, you're just going to keep going and keep going. So, there's going to be games where, your rush plan doesn't seem like it's working, but you just have to, just keep going.
Yeah, it all comes to a head, and then when it does, it's like a dam breaking, right?
Exactly, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Lions. Their offensive line is pretty good. They've only given up 1 sack in the last 3 games. I know it's not all about the sacks, but how can you disrupt this game and get in front of Jared Goff and make sure you guys have an impact?
Yeah, we just have to, put pressure on him and try to get him off his spot, make him uncomfortable. He's getting the ball out fast. Give our DBs and our linebackers an easier, job on Sunday to cover those guys. They have a lot of playmakers on the outside. So whatever we can do to make him uncomfortable in the pocket, that's what we have to do. And, just numbers to the ball. When they get the ball out fast, we can't stop in our rush. We have to turn and, add.
All right, the Jets game last week, you guys started off on fire. 5 straight possessions, a lot of 3-and-outs, 1 4-and-out. You got the turnover on downs. Yeah. What was key in starting that game off so fast and setting the tone early?
I feel like we were just hungry, to end the streak. We just wanted to go out there and do our part. Early in the season, obviously we struggled, with the run game, and we struggled early in the first halves of most of our games. So we just wanted to come out strong, started off strong, and that's what we did.
All right, 6 games ago, month and a half left. What's the sense of urgency for this team, and how much are you relishing this chance? The Bills came in a couple of weeks ago. They were one of the best teams in the AFC. Now here come the Lions, one of the best teams in the NFL, certainly one of the best teams in the NFC. How much are you fired up for a game like this to back up last week and prove to the NFL and make a statement, here come the Colts for a playoff push?
Yeah, we're excited for the opportunity, and, we want to play our best ball in November. Breaking the losing streak was, a big step in that direction. And we have to, from here on out, just ball, last game in November, and then December, we just have to get some wins.
Yep, here comes Thanksgiving. Here come the Colts. Big one on Sunday against the Lions. That's Quitty Pay. Quitty, always appreciate your time, man. Good luck.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Kwity Paye right there joined us a little bit earlier today on the Official Colts podcast. We're back here on set with Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, I'm Matt Taylor. All right, we've talked about how good the Lions are going to be. Let's break them down. Let's get intense right now on the 9-1 Lions. They've won 8 straight games coming from the Motor City, Motown. And for that, because they don't play in Lucas Oil Stadium all that often, right? They're coming into town for the first time since 2016. So we need to bring in our musical expert, our Motown aficionado,
Detroit.
Mr. Jeffrey Gorman, the pride of Detroit.
Yes.
He is born and raised in Michigan. How we doing, sir? Welcome to town. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our Motown medleys and talk about the Detroit Lions. How you feeling?
I know. How's your attitude today, by the way?
I am. You kidding me?
You good? You got a great attitude. You do too. Okay.
I appreciate that.
This is
back,
because
Billy.
I was born in Detroit, raised in Detroit. The
Yes, you
Lions
were.
were my club for a lot of years. They're not now. I know my loyalty is based on the horseshoe and has been for 20-plus years. But it's been so long of greatness in Detroit for this NFL franchise, as you guys know. So me, as a guy in the back, just watching them be so successful, I thought we would pay tribute to the great Lions offense and defense this year with a Motown medley. But I think they've earned it. They haven't been in this position where all eyes are on them with one loss over the course of the season. So if you guys don't mind, you go about your discussion on them, and I'm just going to medley some Motown hits. This team deserves it.
They do. You're right. I mean, if any team deserved it, it would be these Lions.
And I haven't karaoke'd in a long time, so carry on, boys. Carry on.
I think we brought you in because we can't, copyright-wise, we can't actually play these songs.
We're going to play them, but
So we're just going to bring in Jeffrey Gorman. Order now.
you guys
the
ready?
full set, $19.99, 3 CDs.
you can have Baby Love, my babe.
All right, well,
guys.
All right, the Motown hit that comes to mind right away here. They're dancing in the streets.
Dancing in the streets. That's Martha and the Vandells, by the way.
This is, Martha Reeves and the Vandells. All right, they're dancing all over the streets. The Lions are 9-1. Everybody's losing their mind. They're off to their best start since 1934. Think about that, all right? This is like pre-World War II stuff we're talking about right now. That's how good the Lions are this year. They've won 8 straight. They're the top seed in the NFC right now. They just kicked the living you-know-what out of the Jaguars last weekend, 52-6. They've won 3 games on the year by at least 38 points.
Unbelievable.
They have 5 wins on the season by at least 10 points, and they are the 5th team to produce at least 325 points. They have a point differential of plus 150 through the first 10 games of any season since the merger. Motown Jeffrey, give it to
I
us.
guess I wonder how you knew about your plan to sing blues. You knew before. Can there's 2 of us can you can let know?
I know there was a question and a reason you brought all that stuff up, Matt, but it kind
All
of
right,
speaks
Motor
because
City Jeffrey.
I'm blown away at those numbers. I mean, you talk about, the 38-point thing is mind-blowing because
too proud to beg.
if you think about the last time that the Colts won a game by 35 points,
you
have to go back to 2009. They have done that 3 times in 2 months. Wild to think. It's absolutely.
How uncomfortable are you right now?
I'm actually very comfortable. I don't even notice Jeffrey's there.
I mean, he was whispering sweet nothings into your ear. Yeah. I mean, Bill, without a doubt, the Lions right now embody the spirit of their head coach. No nonsense, no bull, all business Dan Campbell. 11 years in the NFL as a tight end. Actually played 3 years for the Lions, by the way. I mean, this is going to be one of the most physical tests of the season for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, they just come out and play hard and play physical the whole game. They don't let anyone deter how they're going to play football. They go out there, they play hard, they run the ball hard, and they do it for 60 minutes. That's what surprises me. A lot of times you have teams that play hard for maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes. This is a team that plays hard for 60 minutes. They have a good running game, they score points. Stand by me. Points per game, so they're going to go out and try to score points and put it on you. And you know what? They're going to put it on you like Jeff's putting on me right now.
He's serenading you right now.
Right now.
Who is that?
I'm
Who
not
sings
even
that?
here. That's
Stand By Me? Is that Percy Sledge? not Percy.
No.
not
Stand
Percy.
by me.
He was a Muscle Shoals guy,
Marvin
wasn't
Gaye?
he?
No.
Luther Vandross?
It's not the Commodores, is it?
I got a lot
Stand
coming
by-
out, so guys keep talking
Hey,
on this Lions offense.
Easy by the Commodores.
Cause I'm easy like Sunday morning.
Well, you know what? He's talking about easy. That's how it seemed like the Detroit offense.
That is. That's a
what
good
I'm
one,
saying.
right?
I mean, they're
That's what I'm saying.
You know what else I think of? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, about that offense. Dun, dun, dun. You're giving me a true love and sink
Motor City Jeffrey playing all the hits.
all the
case
hits.
all diamond rings and sinking mama. David, baby, their offense is a symphony. It's how to... All right, this isn't working. Maybe it did work a little bit, but Casey, thanks for playing along with me as I do it out. I'm going to medley you guys out.
No,
on
we
the
got
way
one
out.
more. Can you can you give me some Jackson 5? I want you back.
I want you back. Do. I want you back.
'Cause-
Oh, Casey, give me one more chance.
'Cause the
Tell me
Rams-
that you love
the
me.
Rams might be wanting Jared Goff
You
back.
say me the name of. I want you back. Say all that, child. I want you back.
Great point there, Matt.
I want you back.
I mean-
oh, Casey, give me.
That trade
Walk
that the
off.
Rams made with
Love
Matthew
that.
Stafford, it ultimately was like Jared Goff was just the piece of the pie to make it financially work.
Yeah.
Like he was the throwaway.
The throw-in, yeah.
The
You
Rams,
get a quarterback
they wanted
for the time being.
Stafford, and it was like, well, what are we going to do with this guy? We don't want him to sit here and back up, so let's just. And man, it has worked so well in Detroit. There's one of those things where you talk about upper echelon or tiers of quarterbacks, and you've got your Mahomes, your Josh Allen, your Lamar Jackson. If you ask me, Jared Goff is right in that next tier, and you put a team around him like the Lions have done, and it just elevates everything that he does. I mean, he's completing, 73% of his passes?
Correct.
And, I mean, what he did last week, it's his second time having a perfect QBR, threw for over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. I know the Jags have really been struggling, but it's still an NFL team. It's remarkable what Jared. I mean, you talk about getting a second opportunity to start quarterback. It doesn't happen very often, and he has taken it and run with it, and it is a perfect marriage.
And he's still only 30.
Yeah, he's just 30. He's
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
He has many years
Oh, man.
to go for his career. But talking about that, just piggyback off that, some of his stats against Seattle, 18 for 18,
Yeah.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Against Minnesota, 22 for 25, 2 touchdowns. Against Green Bay, 18 for 22. I mean, the guy has just been on point, having a high completion percentage rate, and he's just doing a good job for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
That's just what they needed, what they wanted for them, and I think he's playing well. Outside the Houston game, where I think he threw for 5
interceptions, yeah.
Outside of that, he's been playing phenomenal. He's been playing lights out for the Detroit Lions, and that's what they want. Someone that can play like that, and they could depend on their running game, and
Yeah.
they have a good running game, and they know that their quarterback can hit the wide receivers
Yeah.
when they need to.
I mean, 18 for 18, that's like Motor City Jeffrey in his backyard.
Bill and I this week, we talked to Dave Burkett, who covers the Lions from the Detroit Free Press, and that's one of the things that he mentioned is the evolution of Jared Goff as a passer. It leads to what Bill just talked about with early in his career, he wanted to hit the home runs. It was all about, big yardage. I can't settle for anything, and he has kind of adapted to take what the defense is giving you. It's okay to have a 4-yard completion because then it sets up 3rd down and 6 instead of 3rd and 10 where you're way behind the sticks. It's being able to complete the easy ones, and it all adds up. I mean, you talk about multiple times this year, the numbers of completions outweighed his total interceptions.
Right.
Like for the first 6 weeks, it was like he had the same amount of interceptions as he'd had incompletions, which it's unbelievable. I mean, what he has done,
Right.
you tip the cap because Jared Goff has been very, very good for Detroit.
All right, a couple more things on the Lions. Casey, sing it with me. The 4 tops. Motor City, Casey, no. It's the same.
Song.
Darling. I don't know the words.
Yeah.
I don't know the words, and we're going to get in trouble with the copyright people, so we're just going to... It's the same old song and dance, same old list of characters as last year on offense, Bill. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've got David Montgomery, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, you've got Jamison Williams. I mean, these guys are game wreckers. And if you look at their trio of guys that they rely primarily on, it's St. Brown, Montgomery, and Gibbs. Obviously, it's Montgomery and Gibbs in the ground game. But those three guys have scored at least 9 touchdowns on the season. Second time in NFL history that a trio of teammates have all produced 9 screaming touchdowns through 10 games of a season. The only other teams to do that, the Broncos, who did it in 2013, they had 4 players to do so. I mean, you're right. I mean, you look at Goff. Goff's having a great season. You take nothing away from that. But the reason is because he's got guys around him that make him better.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't have to overcomplicate the game because of the scheme and the great weaponry around him.
Oh, yeah, so definitely. I mean, that's what you want. You want guys to – you want to have a offense that they complement one another. You know, they have a running game, and the running game complements the passing game. The passing game helps the running game as well. And they have that. They have that in those 2 running backs they have back there. Last year, I think they were – only 55 yards from the duo. Both of them over 1,000 yards rushing. So, you know, that's pretty amazing. And so those guys have been playing well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think every year he's put up some big numbers ever since he's gotten in the league, and he's been clutch for them. And that's who Goff is going to look to make big plays, and he has been making big plays for him. So it's very important for the coach to say, okay, we can't stop all of them, but we're going to have to take somebody away and see what we can do. But, you know what, they have a good offense. Give the Detroit Lions credit for what they do out there in the football field. They put together a team that can complement one another, and they take after the personality of their head coach.
Yeah,
that's what's amazing to me.
Yeah, 33 points per game, best point total, if it holds up, since the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs. And I didn't even say Sam Laporta.
Yeah,
I know.
At tight end.
I mean, Sam Laporta was a guy that the Lions traded T.J. Hawkinson 2 years ago inside the division, which I thought was very strange. He goes to the Vikings, and you were kind of like, oh, why would they do that? Because you need – and Sam Laporta just, hey, don't worry about me. I'll come in and, you know, he set the
rookie record
last year for receiving yards, receptions, and touchdowns by a tight end in Lions history. So, I mean, you talk about what Amon-Ra St. Brown is. They've gotten Jamison Williams back. He's had some injuries and some suspensions in his career, but when he's on the field, he is dynamic. But Sam Laporta has been such a great security weapon for Jared Goff. And you talk about the running backs, Bill. I gave Jared Goff a whole bunch of credit, but you're right. I mean, it's that entire offense, and we haven't even mentioned that offensive line, arguably one of the best O-lines in football. So from an offensive standpoint, what Ben Johnson and that crew does in Detroit, it's incredible. Really, it really is.
Yep. And lastly, with Motown here, the Temptations back in the day, Bill, they sang "Just My Imagination." It's not your imagination that the defense is almost as good as their offense. All right, they're top 5 in scoring. They're number 1 on third down. They're top 5 inside the red zone. They're giving up only 17 points per game. So if you look at them schematically, they've had a bunch of injuries. Alex Anzalone, their stud middle linebacker, he's going to be out probably for the rest of the regular season. Might be a guy that's going to be designated to return off of IR if they get on a playoff run, which obviously they will inside the NFC. But they're a little bit, they're really good at stopping the run, but they're susceptible a little bit to the passing game. They give up on average 232 passing yards per game. But the balance to that is they're so good at taking the football away. They're number 2 in the NFL in interceptions with 14. They've got a lot of guys in the back end that can rip the ball away. The Kirby Joseph leads the NFL with 7 interceptions. He's one of their stud safeties. Brian Branch has 4 interceptions. So you look at their defense and you say, okay, well, they have a couple of weaknesses, but then you look at some other areas that offset it, and you're like, these are weaknesses, but they really don't show up because they don't prevent them from winning football games.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't prevent them from winning football games. They still are good enough to hold teams down, and as you said, 5th in the league as far as opponents' points per game, with holding teams to 17 points per game.
Right.
So they are playing well. They're good in the red zone. They're actually tied for 3rd in the red zone as far as defensively, and I think they're number 1 on third down.
Yeah.
So they're a good team. They do some things well. Yes, maybe their passing defense isn't up to what they want to be, but they're still good enough to create turnovers,
Yeah.
get interceptions, and, get the ball back to the offense. So they're a good team. And as we mentioned earlier, I think they take the personality of their coach. They're going to be physical. Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, he's the guy that has done a good job for them. He's done a nice job, actually, for them as far as getting them together and getting pieces from different parts and draft picks and everything and putting it all together for them to have a real good defense. So they've done a nice job putting everything together, and I think it's one of those things where going into this game, the Colts have to be aware of, hey, look, we have to make sure we take care of the ball, one, and see what we can do as far as getting first downs, and definitely once we get in the red zone, try to score some touchdowns because, as we mentioned earlier, their offense is pretty powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
And one little thing on the passing game, you talk about they do have a little bit of areas of weakness in the passing game, but they have only allowed 7 passing touchdowns all season.
Wow.
So they're able to buckle down when they need to. Now, one area that has kind of been able to be more on a positive swing for them, but this is if I'm attacking this defense, this is one area I'm going at. Terrion Arnold was one of the highly touted corners coming out of college, out of Alabama. He has been heavily penalized. He's got the second most penalties in all of football this year with 10 defensive. Now, 7 of those are either a defensive hold or a pass interference. So that is an area that I think the Colts are probably going to try to exploit if they can, because the other guys you talk about, I mean, Carlton Davis, he has been a really good corner for a long time. His time dating back to Tampa Bay. You talked about the safeties and Joseph and what Brian Branch is doing. So the only area when I think passing game wise, I think you got to attack that rookie because that's kind of the only way that you're able, I think, when you look at it, to move the football down the field.
Alec Pierce.
Good point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes those work. I mean, we all know this, but a 35, 40-yard pass interference play, in my eyes, chalk that down as a big play because that's what it is. It gives you don't get those yardage at the end of the day, but the penalty yardage, it helps make
big
up for
time.
that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well done right there. Great point. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier right there. You guys are both going home on the way home. You're listening to Motown on Spotify.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't you? I know you're going to pull it up. You're in the mood now.
Of course.
You can throw on some Smokey Robinson. I'm all
telling you.
in. I'm good with that.
Temptation.
Yeah, I'm all good with that.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson 5.
Yeah, Bill's going to get a speeding ticket on the way home, baby. Yeah. Young Michael, he'll do it to you. Fantastic. Hey, easy for me to say. Great job by both of you guys. I mean, without a doubt, as we close out here, I mean, this is going to be, the Colts are going to have to play their best game of the season in order to get this win.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. They're going to have to play well in all 3 phases and for 60 minutes, as we talked about earlier. Both sides, all 3 phases playing for 60 minutes. And just making sure just don't turn the ball over. Give yourself an opportunity.
No doubt.
I don't want to say this as like it's okay if you lose, but we mentioned this before, how important the AFC games are going to be down the stretch. You look at this one, and the biggest benefit is that it's an NFC game. So it's not like it doesn't matter, but this is one of those games where it's definitely a great test, too, because you can put yourself up to see where you rank.
Especially what happened 2 weeks ago against Buffalo. Let them off the hook.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
It's a statement game. You can make a statement and build off the
100%.
fact that Anthony Richardson had his best performance last week against the Jets, but everybody, all the naysayers are saying, well, the Jets stink, right? Now you play at home against one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Colts haven't. Their wins this season are against bottom feeders.
Yeah.
Right. That's the reality of it. Can the Colts make a statement and get a signature win under head coach Shane Steichen?
And I mean, I know I'm looking forward to seeing what this team does because the Colts have had a way over the past handful of years where they, in some ways, they play up to that competition.
Yeah.
So when the best team comes in, you get the best from the Colts. So I'm anxious to see how they come out on Sunday.
Yep, absolutely.
And playing at home.
Yes.
And playing at home. I think
And
that's
Indiana
big.
Knights, we get to see the black helmets and the cool alternate jersey. I'm looking forward to all of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is slick, man. Only the second time the Colts are breaking those out. They did last year, and we're going to see those black helmets for time number 2 at Lucas Oil Stadium. Wish it was a night game.
I know,
I wish it
man.
was a
I hear
night
you.
game, but yay. Got to do. You got to earn
that
those
would've
night
been
games,
nice.
right? You got to, have better records
Yes.
overall, some more sustainability to playing on prime time right there. Again, Bill and Casey, I'm Matt Taylor. Colts and Lions this weekend. We are set and ready to go. There's going to be some Lions fans in the building, no question about that. But Colts fans, you got to drown them out. Be loud, be proud, stand up, and will this team to a victory, trying to get back to 500 at 6-6 as we head down the home stretch. I'm Matt Taylor. Thanks for listening and watching on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network. And we'll talk to you next week, Colts and Patriots in Week 13. But until then, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon here on the Colts Audio Network.